Hello and welcome to this special edition of the Global Dialogue. I'm Shereen Bhan. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C. We're right outside the White House in what is called the Lafayette Square. And it is my privilege to have with me on the program Milind Pant, the Global CEO of Amway. Milind, it's great to have you back on CNBC-TV18 and thanks very much for joining us here today.
Shereen, it's great to see you. And I remember we met, 4 years back?
Pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic, and here we are again in D.C. and welcome.
Well, thank you very much. But, let me get started by asking you about how much the world has changed and what that means now as far as Amway is concerned. You talked about the pandemic and, we saw what that meant in terms of the world shifting its attention and its focus not just to vaccination but to health and nutrition, which is now a big pivot that Amway is making. So, I want to understand from your journey, especially through the lens of the pandemic, how strategy is changing for you.
Shereen, the pandemic was tough and brutal. I mean, as per WHO, 7 million people died across the world. 750 million were infected. As a part of Amway, we pivoted and used our strengths to see how we can help everyone across the world. We've got these million micro entrepreneurs that are building healthy weight, healthy fitness communities, and helping people build these healthy habits and encourage innate immunity. We believe prevention is better than care. We've got organic farms, patents. So we pivoted the entire organization and doubled down on helping our micro entrepreneurs build these communities of healthy habits and healthy living.
So let me break that down into what this means as far as the next 15 years is concerned for the company. And if I were to go back into Amway's history, it seems like every decade or so there is a shift that happens, into the cosmetics business in 1979 and then the Nutrilite acquisition about a decade later. And here we are today. So if I were to ask you what the company could look like over the next 10 years. What's the strategy? What's the plan? What's the vision?
Well, Shereen, the opportunity is a $350 billion opportunity globally. We are 8 billion, so we're just 2%. As we look ahead, like you said, to 2035, 10, 15 years from now, there are massive lifestyle diseases across the world. Just take obesity for a moment. More than half the world will be overweight. India, there are 100 million people with diabetes, over 200 million people with high blood pressure. I think we can play a small role as a part of helping people live a better, healthier life.
And how do you intend to do that? And what is this going to mean now in terms of the kind of work that you do, in terms of the product portfolio that you are going to have? And where does India fit into all of this? Because, it's been a challenging market, to say the least, as far as Amway is concerned, but you are now looking at using India much more strategically from a manufacturing perspective, from an R&D perspective. So how does India fit into this new scheme of things?
Well, India is we are in 100 markets, but India is where my heart is, right? I was born and grew up in the foothills of the Himalayas. If you look at this whole idea of holistic wellness, it was in Charak Samhita 5,000 years back. This is the foundation of Ayurveda. The question is, what are we doing about it? We are doubling down on investing in product innovation and science. We believe that the starting point is gut health. So using gut health and microbiome, not just for physical health, but mental health. We've got partnerships in India, we've got partnerships with IIT Mumbai, we've got partnerships here in the US and across the world. We've got 1,000 patents. We're also investing in digital technology so that we can have a frictionless, easy experience for our micro entrepreneurs and their customers so they can focus on building these communities. So we're looking at India and markets across the world. India remains a big potential, and there's a lot that we need to do there. Even though we've been there for 25 years, we are there for the next 25 and more.
And I want to talk to you about India in the context of your experience of running Yum in China. And everyone's making this comparison at this point in time. And once again, the big focus is that as people try and decouple from China, is it going to be advantage India? And what strength should India leverage in order for it to be an India plus or a China plus play? How do you read this?
Well, first of all, like you said, I spent my formative years in Unilever India. You know, one of the best experiences I had. And then I worked in Yum across the world, including living in Shanghai. As I look ahead for India specifically, look ahead to the next 20, 30 years, I'm very bullish. It's mathematics that India will be a $25 trillion economy by 2045, 2050, which is the size of the US economy today. And it will get there because there are many tailwinds in India's favor. It's got a youthful, economy, youthful society. They're driven, they're entrepreneurial, they're health-focused. It's investing in digital infrastructure and physical infrastructure. And then to your point, there's a geostrategic sweet spot for India. And a confluence of all these reasons, I see India on a long decades of growth, which will help society and citizens both in India and here in the US.
So since that's the bull case as far as India is concerned, but how do you see it contributing specifically to Amway's growth? I mean, what is the kind of sales percentage that you anticipate India to drive for Amway over the next 5 years? And what is it also going to mean in terms of your investments into India? Because they're still relatively small at this point in time, if I look at your sort of global investment scenario.
So today, US and China are our top two markets globally for Amway. We would love for India to join US and China to be in the top three markets. For that, we will continue to invest in India. We've got a $100 million manufacturing facility in Tamil Nadu. We're investing in science and partnership. We've got organic farms in 5 states from where we take herbals, including for Ayurveda. So one of the things we're doing is expanding our range to include the best of Indian medicine and Indian herbs with the science and efficacy that we can provide, including with organic farming.
So is that going to mean that you're looking at setting up more manufacturing facilities in India?
We will continue to invest and support our growth, be it in manufacturing, be it in farms, be it in terms of technology, whatever it takes.
You talked about China and the US and China being your top markets for Amway. Everyone's betting on the fact that we are now going to see a recovery coming in as far as China is concerned, which took much longer to open up post the pandemic. What's your experience about what's happening in China at this point in time? Are you as confident about China as you are about India today?
That's a great question, Shereen. And it's in March this year, I was in India. I was in Madurai, in Bangalore, in Delhi, and then I was in Guangzhou and Beijing. And I can say we look at both these markets as being big potential markets. China, for us in the business, China is back. And our business in China is back to being strong, and we continue to be confident in our business in China as we are about the potential of our business in India.
Okay, well, so, because different companies are experiencing the recovery in China in different ways at this point. But let's talk about the US and what you anticipate here as far as the market is concerned. We've gone through a phase of whether it's going to be a hard landing or a soft landing. Interest rates continue to sort of hover around the 5% mark, and the expectation is that perhaps now we will see a pause for at least a while. What's the sentiment and confidence like, business confidence like in the US today?
Well, as of now, the consumer confidence remains surprisingly strong. But the next 12 to 18 months will be uncertain because inflation, to your point, remains high, and the Fed is clear. Its objective number one is to get inflation back to 2%. And that normally happens by slowing down demand. So we will have the next 12 to 18 months that will be challenging. But today, the consumer demand remains strong.
So demand is still holding for you in the US? So you're not anticipating a recession at this point in time?
We are not building a recession in our business plan. And Shereen, frankly, we look at business much longer term. There are challenges like recession, inflation that will continue at different points of time in different markets of the world. in a global company, that is inevitable. We are focused, as we were discussing earlier, we are focused on the biggest health issues that society faces, and how can we be a part of helping people live a better and a healthier life.
As you said, that a lot of these challenges are challenges that CEOs like yourself will just have to deal with. But is there a specific risk today that you're more mindful of than some of the other challenges that we just spoke of? I mean, is there anything that keeps you up at night?
Well, what keeps me up at night is, are we doing enough and moving fast enough to help our micro entrepreneurs be as successful as they wish to be? Acknowledging that there are geopolitical risks, acknowledging there are economic risks, acknowledging that we have to think through a supply chain for the future, we have to think through regulatory frameworks. All those do remain things that are important and a reality, but not the ones that keep me up at night.
Okay. I don't know if India still keeps you up at night from a regulatory point of view or not, but that challenge still remains and you haven't been able to deal with it. So, does that not weigh on your decisions then when it comes to putting more money into India?
Well, in the short term, the uncertainty could be avoided. But at the same time, we understand, and Shereen, you and I were talking about this earlier, India is a combination of patience and optimism.
But you've been there 25 years, so
right.
you still have patience.
We are patient and we are optimists. And we believe that, the due process of law and the regulations will take their course. But we are confident in India, first of all, the potential of India. We're confident of what we could do to help micro entrepreneurs in India and help with the healthier Indian society.
Mm-hmm. You're part of the US-India Business Council as well, Milind, and the board was just meeting. And this, of course, is a meeting ahead of Prime Minister Modi's visit here to the US to meet with President Biden. And from many accounts, the indication is that perhaps this period could be the inflection point for both sides to really achieve the potential that we've been speaking of. While there has been a great degree of convergence, the belief is that this relationship hasn't still delivered to its full potential, but this could be the turning point. Do you believe that?
I 100% believe that. I believe that US and India has the potential to be the most consequential relationship of this century. There are so many commonalities. There's commonality of the values, there are people-to-people relationship, there's increasingly trade investment, and foundation of all that is this building of trust between the two nations and the two societies. So yes, Prime Minister Modi coming in here next week is fantastic. This is the third time ever that an Indian Prime Minister or President is having a state visit. And I think this will be an important milestone as we look ahead to the next 5, 10, 15 years of the US-India relationship.
Well, yes, you're right in pointing out that certainly is the hope, that this is going to be a partnership where there will be a further amplification and acceleration of areas of collaboration and partnership. But, speaking of milestones, Milind, I want to talk to you about your own journey and the many milestones that you've covered. Growing up in Nainital and then, moving outside of India fairly late. You're one of the CEOs from the great Unilever factory, or the Hindustan Unilever factory, as it's come to be known. What has it been like for you to experience working in a corporation, heading a corporation, as you navigate 100 different countries?
Shereen, I got lucky, and I'm so fortunate for so many reasons where I am today, and you mentioned a couple of them. I'm really thankful. The way I deal today and the way I'm shaped as a leader starts with what I call family values in India, or sanskar. These are things that we grew up with. Do the right thing, continuous learner, raise the bar. So these are important, fundamental, foundational values that, frankly, I didn't think of too much as I was growing up, but today when I reflect, I think that's an important factor. The other one is just the complexity and diversity of India, and working with Hindustan Lever or Hindustan Unilever was an important part of the leadership journey that I started. And the third is just the idea of America, Shereen. You know, I mean, for all the strengths and the advantages and the good luck that I've had, you know, growing up in India, working in India, it's the idea of America where hard work and performance is more important than who you are. I live in West Michigan, right? We've just become naturalized citizens like 9 months back. So, you know, we're kind of fresh, new into the country, but it's fantastic. It's a privilege to be part of a global company and to do what one can do, starting off from the foothill of the Himalayas, from Nainital in the early years.
Back to Amway and the 15-year roadmap that you spoke of, you know, what is the contribution that you see from health and wellness and nutrition over the next 10 years? I mean, how much of that is going to be driving sales and profitability for you?
Shireen, Amway today and going forward is a micro-entrepreneur-led health and wellness company. So we see almost our entire growth and our portfolio, our training, our investments, all moving to health and wellness products. Now, this includes healthy beauty. So, for example, you know, our healthy beauty range has the same botanicals from the organic farms. We use chia seeds in our beauty creams, but the entire range will now be based on health and wellness, be it healthy weight, healthy fitness, healthy beauty, healthy aging.
And what is it going to mean in terms of a healthy supply chain? Because that's going to be crucial as well to be able to deliver on the promise and the claims that you make. So how do you ensure a clean, green, sustainable, supply chain?
That's a great question, Shereen. And this is a little known fact and a secret that Amway has over 6,000 acres of organic farms that we own and operate ourselves. So we are integrated from the farm to the family. So we have our farms in Brazil, in Mexico, here in the Washington state. We have partner farms across the world, including in India. We've got our manufacturing facilities. We've got a last mile delivery to the customer's doorstep. So we've got the entire healthy supply chain to ensure that everything is traceable, safe, and of the highest quality.
And what is it going to mean in terms of the kind of investments that you make on R&D, the science to back this health and wellness journey that you speak of? What kind of investments is that going to entail?
It's going to take investments of our own, and it's going to take partnerships. We already have, Shereen, 1,000 patents in nutrition and botanicals. We've got partnerships with many science and research institutes. And we will continue to go ahead, especially when it comes to gut health. Because as I was saying earlier, Shereen, gut health, and by the way, this goes back to Charak Samhita. You know, Dr. Deepak Chopra talks about it quite often. He talks about how the vagus nerve connects the lower brain to the gut. We are investing in that, and all our innovations and our partnerships are going into new products that will help with a holistic wellness, starting with gut health powered by plants.
Okay, and in that context, and you talked about the partnership that you have, for instance, with IIT in India, is the academia-industry relationship going to be something that you intend to build on much more strongly? 100%.
We will take partnerships. We're also taking stakes in startups. We invested in a startup in Korea, HEM, that works on gut health, is on cutting edge on gut health and gut health products. Personally, Shereen, I've started living a healthier life since I've been in Amway for the last 5 years. It kind of takes me back to my days growing up in the foothill of the Himalayas. But eating a plant-forward diet, sleeping better, regular exercise, the kind of stuff you do.
No, I wish I could claim that I do on all of those currently. I mean, I would not be able to check even one of those boxes currently. But
you do that well. I follow you on Instagram, so.
No, that's just twice a week. I manage that. But it's been fabulous chatting with you, Milind, and we look forward to seeing you back in India as well, and to talk to you more about the India journey. So sales in India over the next few years, what could that ambition be?
Well, there is no limit Shereen, to the potential in India. I
It's still
truly
fairly
believe
small.
that. It's a small business to the size of our China business. It's 1/15 of a China business. I would say the potential is at least 15 times more, if not higher. But I remain confident and bullish on India as a nation and the Amway business in India, because all we are doing is helping these micro entrepreneurs build their communities and do the best to provide these health and wellness solutions. If anything, the pandemic has reminded us that health is wealth.
Well, that it certainly has, and we wish you all the very best, Milind. Thanks very much for speaking to us here on CNBC-TV18 for Global Dialogues in Washington, D.C. Appreciate your time, and we wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you, Shereen. Pleasure, as always.